Hey, Mike Filippov here from PracticeGuitarNow.com. In this video, I'm going to show you a little tip that will make your playing sound better and cleaner right away. And best of all, it requires virtually no practice at all. And the advice is this: raise the string action on your guitar. That's it. When you raise the string action on your guitar, you'll be able to play much cleaner than you ever have before with all your techniques and all your exercises. And you can do that with, like I said, virtually no practice at all. Now, if you don't know what string action is, it is simply the height of the strings away from the guitar neck. And most of the advice that you hear regarding string action is to keep it as low as possible to supposedly make faster playing feel easier. Well, on my guitar, the string action is this high. Yep, your eyes are not lying to you. My string action is really this high when I play. Alright, so how does raising your action help your playing become cleaner, and do you need to have your action as high as I have it? Well, to answer the second question first, no, absolutely not. You do not have to have your string action as high as I have it, or anywhere even close to that. However, your playing will become cleaner right away as soon as you raise your string action even a little bit from whatever level it is set to right now. Here's why. Think about the process of fretting a note. That process consists of two steps. First, you have to push the string down with the finger, and then you have to release the string with the finger to have the note stop ringing. Now, when the action is set super low, it makes it easier to do the first part of the motion, to push the string down, because you can do that with the least amount of effort possible. And that is why you often hear that you will play faster with super low action, at least in theory. But the downside of low action is that it makes it much harder to do the second half of the motion, which is the release of the note. It is much harder to mute the note you just played in a clean way without having the notes ring together, or without having to raise the finger off the strings, which of course is inefficient because your fingers are moving way more than they have to. So either your fingers are moving more, moving inefficiently, or you have some sloppy noise with the notes ringing together when you change strings, or when you're sweep picking. Notes are bleeding together because it's much harder to mute the notes you want to mute when you want to mute them. Higher action gives your fingers a bit of a cushion where your fingers can still be touching the string but still not pressing the note down yet, so the note is muted but also the fingers are close to the strings. This makes your motions way more efficient, helps you play faster, and also keeps your playing cleaner because it avoids the bleeding issue of the notes ringing together when you don't want them to ring. This becomes really obvious when you sweep pick. So let's say you have to do this 3-string arpeggio where your finger has to roll across several strings. By rolling, I mean playing several notes on the same fret across multiple strings with the same finger. If your action is set really high, like mine, rolling becomes really easy to do cleanly, because as soon as my finger rolls from the first note to the second note, it takes almost nothing to release the first note and have it be muted, and all of the focus is now on the second note. So this way I'm only hearing one note at a time, which is the key to clean sweep picking. The first note is muted, the second note is now ringing. If the action was super low, it would be much harder to avoid the bleeding between these two notes. Because, as I mentioned earlier, the finger, if it still stays in contact with the G string even a little bit, it's much more likely that it will ring out than it would be if my action was higher, as it is in my case. Now, as we continue the arpeggio, to play the third note, it becomes even easier to keep it clean. The note on the second string is muted. Because the action is so high, it takes almost no effort to release the note and have it be clean as soon as I want it to be clean, and I'm able to press down the note on the first string and produce a clear sounding note. This is why fast and clean sweep picking becomes way easier to do when your action is a little bit higher. Everything I just described applies exactly the same way to all your scales, scale sequences, and any licks where you change strings and there's a possibility that there will be some residue from the last note you played on the previous string and the first note you play on the next string you're going to, because you didn't quite release the last note on the previous string enough to mute it. Low action makes it more likely that you're going to hear this when you change strings, and higher action helps you avoid these issues altogether. Higher action also makes it much easier to sustain notes. So when you play a guitar solo and you want to play one note that just grabs your listeners by the throat and makes them pay attention to what you're playing, you don't want your notes dying early because they have no life left. You want the note to sustain for as long as possible, right? Well, higher action allows you to do that. So when you want to play just one note and have it scream, higher action really helps you do that. And the reason why it works is because when the action is higher, the string has less rubbing against it. The string doesn't rub so much against the fretboard and against the frets, so that of course allows the note to sustain much longer. Another great benefit of higher action, and specifically a longer sustain due to higher action, is that it makes your picking and your playing in general sound way more powerful and way more articulate. So right now, my amp is off. I'm going to play something and you can hear how articulate and how powerful the notes sound. Now, I am picking harder than normal, but the real reason why the notes sound as powerful and as loud as they do is because the strings are further away from the fretboard, the sustain is greater, which means the initial note is louder, and that is what makes my playing sound much more powerful than it would if I had lower action. Now obviously you don't want to play with maximum power all the time. Sometimes you need to play in a quieter way, in a softer way, in a more reserved way with softer dynamics, but isn't it nice to have the ability to have dynamics be really loud, really expressive whenever you want them to be that way, and also have the ability to play in a quieter and softer and more reserved way? Well, of course it is. That gives you more options, more creative options, makes it easier for you to express yourself on guitar. Now, a common question that may be on your mind right now is, does raising a string action make it harder to play fast? Because after all, it takes more effort to fret the note when the action is higher. And the answer is no, it makes virtually no difference at all on how fast you can play. Yes, there is more effort required to press the note down when the action is higher, but we're talking about such a tiny, insignificant difference in the amount of force that's required that it makes virtually no difference at all. And when you first try this, yeah, it's going to feel a little bit weird at first, but after a few weeks of diligent practice, you're not going to notice any difference whatsoever, and it'll be just as easy and effortless as it was before when the action was lower, but you will get all the benefits that I mentioned throughout this video about your playing being much cleaner and your technique being way more efficient than before. Now the second question that might be on your mind is, what about legato, or what about tapping, or crazy multi-finger tapping that some guitar players do? Doesn't having really high action interfere with those techniques? And the answer is no and kind of. Here's what I mean. When it comes to regular legato, just hammer-ons, pull-ups, and slides you do with the fretting hand, there's no difference at all. You can do all that stuff really fast, really cleanly, actually more cleanly when the action is higher. There's really no difference at all. But when it comes to crazy multi-finger tapping, like when you tap with some fingers of your picking hand, yes, having really crazy high action the way I have it is going to make that technique harder to do. For me personally, I don't care because I don't do really a lot of tapping in my playing. The little tapping that I can do very easily with my action being the way it is, and I don't care to learn or practice multi-finger tapping, so it makes no difference to me whatsoever. For you, it may be different. You may have a goal of mastering crazy multi-finger tapping, so if in that case, you don't need to raise your string action even half as high as I have it. However, if you raise your string action even a little bit from where it is right now for you, you're going to get all the same benefits of having your playing become cleaner and your technique becoming more efficient, but not at the expense of making your tapping playing harder to do or master. So just find a balance there that works for you in this case, and you won't have any problems. The next question I hear a lot is, how much time is it going to take to get used to playing with higher action? And the answer is not as long as you probably think. Once you make the decision, once you make the adjustment on your guitar to raise the string action, it's just a matter of practicing the way you normally do for a couple of weeks, and before you know it, you're not going to notice any difference at all in terms of the effort required, but you're going to love the results of your playing being cleaner than ever before, and you will wonder how you ever played any other way. So that's it for this video. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and go to my website, practiceguitarnow.com, for a lot more videos just like this on various topics about practicing guitar, playing guitar, and all about making your playing feel way easier, way more enjoyable than ever before. Until next time, have fun practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.